So before we get started, I just want to just do a quick poll of who we have in this room here. So raise your hand if you have a child who's 0 to 5 years old. Anyone who has a kiddo who's 0 to 5 years old? Okay. And how about elementary school? Okay. Junior high? High school? Adult? Okay. We have a very good mixture in this room right now. There are about like 5 hands per category. So we've got a wide mixture in this room. All right. So some of you have been on this journey for maybe a few months, some a few years, others of you maybe a decade or two. Some of you may not even remember what life was like before having a loved one with special needs. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey with the special needs community. So I grew up in a small town just about an hour north of Chicago. And after I graduated from high school, I hightailed it out of the Midwest, and I went out to Boston. I got my undergrad in psychology from Boston, and then after that, I was like, being a student is amazing. I wish I could do it forever, and I went straight on to grad school. And I moved down to New York City, and I earned my master's in clinical social work. New York City is like the socioeconomic melting pot of the world, right? I couldn't think of a better place to learn about the diversity amongst human beings. Where I really found my passion, though, in New York City was working with individuals with special needs or with neurodevelopmental disabilities. So at the fresh age of 21, I started providing emotional support to families who have children with special needs. I worked in inpatient hospitals, outpatient clinics. I worked in early intervention, preschool, elementary schools, even high schools. I was inspired by everything there was to learn about this community. I wanted to know everything. So the summer after my first year of graduate school in social work, I decided to pursue a second master's degree. I was like a sponge. So by the time I graduated in 2008, in addition to my master's in social work, I had also completed a master's in early childhood special and general education. I had worked with special needs families everywhere, from the most dangerous neighborhoods in Brooklyn to the most luxurious penthouses on the Upper East Side. I had supported families through a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome, a diagnosis of autism at the age of 2, a diagnosis of ADHD in elementary school, adding medication in high school. When I graduated in 2008, I thought I knew everything. I was pretty confident in my abilities, and so I moved back to the Midwest, ready to start a family of my own. So in total, I lived in New York City for about 8 years. And during that time, I frequently flew back to the Midwest to see my family. Now remember, I lived in New York City post 9/11. And every time I flew in or out of LaGuardia Airport, I couldn't help but think of the fated passengers of American Airlines Flight 11 or United Airlines Flight 175. And so moments like this, right before takeoff, would make me kind of question and evaluate my life. I would kind of take a pause. And I remember I had so many conversations with myself, with the man upstairs right before takeoff. I said, listen, buddy, I've got so much more to give. Like, please let me arrive safely at my destination. I'm still on my journey. I have so much to give this world. Please allow me to arrive safely. And I would also kind of joke around with him a lot. And I would say, buddy, I know what you're thinking. You're up there thinking, wow, Megan is so amazing at providing all these therapeutic and educational interventions to children with special needs. I should give her one of her own to care for. Who better to have a child with special needs than Megan? And I would remind him, dude, I am only so good at what I do because I get to go home at 5 o'clock. I could never do it 24/7. Got it? Spoiler alert for those of you who know me. God had a different plan. But we'll get to that. So when I became pregnant with my first son in 2012, I was well prepared. I thought I was well prepared to put my expertise to work in my own home. The plan was to name him Baby Nolan in the hopes that he followed in the footsteps of the great Nolan Ryan, both strong and strong-minded, pitching devious curveballs to heavy hitters. However, Mr. Nolan had a curveball for all of us. He entered this world 3 weeks early with 47 chromosomes and 6 holes in his heart. He was immediately rushed to Riley, where he spent most of the first 6 months of his life before undergoing open heart surgery at 6 months old. Never before had I been on the front lines as a mother. Assuming that I was prepared for parenthood before actually meeting Nolan was absurd. I had yet to talk to doctors about tests and diagnoses for my own child. I had yet to advocate for services in the schools with teachers and administrators, carry the weight of the resulting stress on my family and relationships. In the beginning, I felt like I was losing ground in all parts of my life. Nolan was a huge, unexpected eye-opener. I tell you so much my story because I think it's easy for anyone to stand up here and preach the importance of self-care. Anyone can stand up here and throw statistics at you. They can tell you that parenting can be stressful even under the best circumstances, but moms and dads of children with special needs often deal with a strain of way greater magnitude. Caring for a child with special needs can be a full-time job, not one that you get to go home at 5 o'clock, right? And 7 days a week. It's an overwhelming one, and sometimes you don't feel like you have adequate support. And without enough help, parents may be headed toward caregiver burnout, compassion fatigue, which again, negatively affects everyone in the family. The consequences of negative stress related to raising kids who have intense needs are real. Studies show that parents of children with developmental disorders are far more likely than others to experience anxiety, depression, insomnia, fatigue. Anyone? I think we could all attest to little pieces of that, if not big pieces of all of those. Not only mental health disorders, but a study out of Britain found that parents of children with special needs had significantly higher levels of both cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and CRP, which is a biomarker linked to everything from colorectal cancer to diabetes to heart disease. So this is real. Self-care is real, and I get it. I understand not only the benefits of it, but I understand how hard it can be to implement a self-care routine into your daily life. So Nolan wasn't the only one who barely survived his first year of life. I frequently stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m. every night, scrolling through Facebook, looking at everyone else's perfect children. I had zero desire to cook or exercise, ordered a lot of food, and I would cry on the couch for hours, or in the shower or in my car. I would cry anywhere and everywhere. I tried to hide it. I isolated myself from our family and friends. I told myself, like, they don't get it. They don't understand me. And I drank way too much wine. By Nolan's first birthday, I was going into a panic attack anytime I smelled that specific soap that they have at Riley. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? You go to Riley, you wash your hands. That smell became this huge trigger for me, and I would literally go into a panic attack if I smelled it. Or anytime I heard an ambulance go whizzing by, I frequently had to call 911. He would stop breathing, ambulance would come and whisk him down to the hospital. And so right around his 1-year birthday, anytime I heard an ambulance, I was like crying and freaking out. And even though I had a mental health degree, it took me a full year to realize that I had post-traumatic stress disorder and probably some anxiety, depression. So I thought back to the dozens and dozens of airplane rides in and out of New York City post 9/11. I thought of all my conversations with God before takeoff and before landing. And I thought about that flight attendant who would come on and she would say, Does everyone know what the flight attendant says? Please be sure to put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others. Why is this such an important rule for survival? Does anyone know? Yes. Correct. If you don't have oxygen, you're going down. And if you go down, you cannot help your child. Way too often, I was focused on keeping Nolan's oxygen mask on, sometimes literally, as you can tell from the slide, and I didn't focus on myself at all. So here's a little clip from the handout, right? But the oxygen, when it drops down, step number 1, step number 2, put it on yourself, tighten it, make sure it works, and then you focus on the kiddo, right? I have this printed out at my house and my office as a reminder. I have to make sure my oxygen mask stays on and is working really well so that I can be a better advocate for number 4, for Nolan and his 2 siblings. One of my favorite quotes in the world is from Gandhi. He says, "You must be the change you wish to see in this world." I like to put a little twist on that, and I tell people, the parents that I work with, that you must be the change you wish to see in your child. And there's a picture of Nolan on his first airplane ride. So I'm here to help you not only understand how focusing on your own mental health can lead to better outcomes for your child and family, but I would also love to help you create like a customized self-care plan, right? Because again, we can preach about the benefits of self-care. Yes, 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 you all know, but it's usually the doing it where people trip up. So what is self-care anyways? Self-care means asking yourself what you need and following through on an honest answer. It's taking a look at some of the bad habits you may have created for yourself, analyzing their long-term effects, exploring possibly some healthier ways to operate, and trying out a new idea until you feel that you've found something that feels like a good habit for you. Self-care means something different to everyone. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Let's talk about self-care for a celebrity, right? I like to dream about this sometimes. If I was a millionaire or a celebrity, they probably have a personal trainer in their home who can hold them accountable for their exercise. They probably can order a massage whenever they want. Or I want someone to wash my hair every day. You know, when they rub, it just feels so amazing. That's what I would do if I had $1 million. Or I heard Britney Spears checked into a mental wellness center, and I was like, why can't I do that? I would love to just check into a wellness center for a month and relax and sleep through the night and sit by the beach without someone trying to climb all over me or wipe their boogers on me. That may be what self-care looks like for a celebrity, right? In this room, some of us might be able to afford the gym either financially or time-wise. Some of us may not. Every human being, though, does carry 2 self-care tools that are always with you, and it's the power of your breath and the power of your thoughts, and we'll get to that a little bit more later. Self-care isn't always fun. Sometimes it's boring, just being. Sometimes it induces a lot of guilt in us, especially as caregivers. And sometimes it can feel really heavy, like a burden, like something that we have to do. It can be really hard because it's a long-term game. This isn't something that you sign up to do for 2 weeks and you'll be great, or 6 months, or 1 year. This is about a lifestyle change, prioritizing yourself so that you can better take care of your kids. It's pretty difficult, but it's worth the work. It doesn't happen overnight. Self-care is super good for us. It increases our emotional and physical health, as we went through before. It builds resilience, and it paves the way for a more kind, compassionate engagement with the world around you. All right, let's get to work. So I want you all to kind of think about what your average day might look like. From the time you wake up in the morning, what your getting ready routine may look like, If you go to work, what it looks like to pack up your bag, get in the car, drive to work. If you have to put kids on the school bus, what that may look like. What you do when you get to your office or when you are at home and either there are no children there and it's just you, or there are some children there because they are not in school yet. Think about the rest of your morning through lunchtime, afternoon, onto your evening and bedtime routine. There should be a second sheet on your table, and at the top of that it has, it says list 3 bad habits. Does everyone see that sheet? And raise your hand if you didn't get one. Stephanie, can you hold that up? It looks like that. It's just got a bunch of words on it. So if you wouldn't mind, here, look, I made a slide about it. So I want you to think about 3 bad habits that you do throughout your day. And again, try to think about maybe like one morning one midday one evening one. But 3 bad habits you have that leave you feeling depleted, exhausted, hopeless, frustrated, bitter, sad, lonely, just not good. I'll share mine with you. All right, number 1, I have a horrible habit of checking Facebook first thing when I wake up. The alarm goes off, I go to shut off my phone, and I'm like, oh, let's start scrolling and see what everyone has been up to the past, 9 hours that I've been sleeping. And inevitably, right, you kind of see some Facebook post that triggers you in some way, whether it's about Down syndrome or your friend who's on a vacation in Florida or just got a new car. Like something triggers me that kind of sets this tone that I'm like, oh, it's not fair, or I just feel frustrated. So that's one of my bad habits. Another bad habit, I have a really hard time saying no. And where that gets me is my schedule gets to be like so overwhelmed. And I am just constantly, filling my schedule with things that aren't really good for me. Maybe good for other people, but not very good for me. And last bad habit I have, I tend to stay up really late at night, like until 11 or 12 p.m. It's like once the kids are in bed and the house is quiet, I just want to like stay up and relish in it. Like it just feels so amazing. And I'll like do this little dance with myself. Like I don't want to go to bed. Like sleep feels good, but like not in the moment, like sitting on the couch and watching TV without anyone crawling on me. Like I can experience that firsthand. It feels so amazing. And so I end up staying up really late. So just take a minute and try to list out 3 habits throughout your day that you find yourself engaging in that don't leave you feeling very good.
Okay, if we instead list our wife's bad habits.
Is she in this room? That's fine. Would anyone feel comfortable sharing what some of their bad habits are? It might help jog some other people's. Yes? That's me too. That's another reason I stay up till midnight sometimes. Uh-huh. Okay, how do you typically find yourself wasting time? Scrolling. Yes. Why does scrolling feel so good? I don't know. I get to like zone out. I think that's what it is.
Watching videos online.
Uh-huh.
Knowing that, could be folding clothes, putting up clothes, or doing dishes or whatever.
Right.
That is kind of zoning out.
Right.
On your laptop or phone.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Other people? Yes? Yes. Stress eating. I'm definitely a stress eater, but I'm also, I never say no, even to like cake or like a cupcake. Even if I'm not stressed, I'm like, I deserve that. Yes. Oh, yeah. You do the same thing? Not taking a break?
I'll be so upset and I realize I haven't eaten all day.
It's not good for us, but it's not.
Maybe that's where those health problems come in, right? You get like a UTI or something. One more person feel comfortable sharing? Yes? You need to share your secrets with me. But that was actually the perfect segue into the next piece. So I want you to look at the 3 bad habits you put down and think of how you could change those, or how you could create space or an opportunity for a new habit that would leave you feeling a little bit more refreshed, renewed, empowered, fulfilled, loved. I'll share mine with you. So this was something I started probably just about 6 months ago. I try to spend the first 10 minutes of my time when I wake up in the morning reading, like reading an actual book, not reading Facebook, reading or journaling. So I have a book and a journal next to my bed. So as I turn off my alarm, I reach for either my book or my journal. It's right there to kind of try to set aside the temptation to check social media. Another change I made, this was probably a year or 2 ago, I only give myself 2 yeses per week. And I try to make it 1 personal yes, so like if a friend asks me to do something, and 1 professional yes. And the rest I just kind of say no, or I say now is not a good time, maybe later. But 2 yeses per week has been a nice, it gives me a little bit more structure for making more conscious decisions about how I manage my time. And then Sunday through Thursday, I will be in bed by 10 p.m. And I had to have my husband come in as an accountability person on this. He used to be like, let's just watch 1 more episode. Let's just watch 1 more episode. And that was usually where I got stuck, staying up until midnight. And so before we turn on the TV, Sunday through Thursday, I say 1 episode. That's it. And he knows to hold me accountable for it because I say, I have to be in bed, otherwise I'm not going to be a very nice person tomorrow. So take a look at your sheet, see where you can make some changes. And does anyone feel ready or comfortable sharing a little change that they could do, whether it's one that you just came up with now or something that you've been trying to change in your life the past few weeks or months or years? Anyone? Yes, thank you.
Well, my problem is I get so exhausted by the end of the day, so then your wherewithal to keep yourself from things that aren't good for you, like, cake or wine. I replace the wine, I have healthier things available, like sparkling water.
Yes.
That's helped a lot. So I'm like, I still get the same treat, I guess.
That's what I was thinking.
The after effect in the morning when you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yes. I like that you said sparkling water. So it's like you still feel like it feels good and a special treat, like you're doing something good for yourself, and you really are.
Yeah.
But it has that same fulfillment. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we got to do some work. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yes, you're exhausted. Yeah. And sometimes they can be little small changes too. And that's why I wanted you to kind of think about your day before. So these can be just 3 minutes of self-care in the shower. Whether I went shopping it was over Christmas, and I was like Bath and Body Works, which I'm never there. And they had this happiness. It's like happiness in a bottle. I don't even remember what it Be Happy shower gel, and I got it. And it's kind of like my little special little treat in the shower. It smells amazing, and I never treat myself. But it's also a reminder that the shower is my time. 90% of the time, it's just me in the bathroom, and I can just kind of take a moment and just breathe in the scent. I look at the word happy on the bottle, and I remind myself that this is a time for me to try to focus on being happy. In the car, I took a really hard look at the radio, what I was listening to. I noticed a lot of the songs were like whining or complaining about life or other people, and it just, and it's such a passive thing, right? Listening to the radio, and I was like, oh, I get to work and I'm like all like riled up about, someone smashing someone's car with a baseball bat. Like, why am I even thinking this? And so I made a huge change in the radio station that I listened to and noticed a huge improvement in my mood. Sometimes after a long day of running around to therapies, my kiddos know that on the ride home, we just kind of sit in silence, or we put on music, but it's just a no talking time, a time for all of us to rejuvenate. And that was born out of everyone would be screaming and crying, including myself, on the way home after like 2 or 3 therapy appointments in the afternoon. Does that make sense, kind of how you can look at tiny little parts throughout your day and pinpoint some small changes that you can make that will have more significant impact throughout your day? All right, confession time. I would love to have you create a confession statement. And if you feel comfortable, share it with your neighbor, either verbally or have them look at your sheet if you don't feel comfortable saying it out loud. But a confession statement might look something like this. I'm a little nervous to admit this, and I hope you can accept this, but I am not sure how I will resist the urge to check Facebook when I wake up. It feels so good to just click it and look and see what everyone else is doing. I have no idea how I'm going to stop it. And seriously, the next Game of Thrones episode starts before the last one even finishes. Like, Netflix keeps you hooked in there. I really need some help with these 2 changes. So in a confession statement, I would encourage you to kind of add a feeling statement in there, like I'm a little nervous, I'm super frustrated with myself, I've been trying to carve out time to go to the gym in the morning, or I've been trying to set limits when I'm in the bathroom, no children allowed, but I'm having trouble, they just open the door, whatever it may be. So some sort of feeling word in there, and then where the struggle is in meeting this self-care goal. And the confession statement wraps up with asking for help. So just take a minute and create a confession statement. And so this is one, as I was saying before, that I shared with my husband. I said, buddy, I need your help. What gets me in the evening, staying up until 11 or 12, is Netflix. And I really need your help combating that. So when we say 1 episode, I need you to align with me and say, that's it, we're done, 1 episode. But that came from me telling him, this is what I need to feel rested the next day so that I'm not screaming at our children and crying in the bathroom. So the reason I added this confession statement in there is because self-care is not a lone pursuit. Having someone you can reach out to when you need an extra push or a compassionate ear can very well mean the difference between burning out or becoming your most powerful self. Think of a rope, right? It starts out as a bunch of frail individual strings. However, when they all become intertwined, the result is an unbreakable force. When you take the time to build a community of care, you immediately become stronger. All of us in this room are experiencing a lot of the same life stressors and experiencing a lot of the same barriers to accessing a healthy, regular self-care plan. So we can rely on each other to lift each other up, hold each other accountable, check in on each other and say, hey, how's that going? Have you been able to take a shower by yourself yet this week? That's awesome. No? Let me help you troubleshoot how you might be able to make that change. There were times when I would take a shower when the kids were asleep. And then that was a moment of time in my life where I was like, that's the only way I'm going to get a shower in by myself. And it was glorious. I don't do that now, but sometimes it's creatively thinking about how to approach the problem. So underneath your confession statement should just be a few lines where you could write down someone's name at your table. If you don't know them already, you can introduce yourselves. If you shared your confession statement or your change with them and ask them to be your accountability partner. If you don't have their contact information already, there's a little line where you can write it down, either a text or a email or a phone call, whatever works best, Facebook, whatever works best that you think would help you guys hold accountable. Also think about loved ones who aren't here who may help hold you accountable as well. All right, I know we only have 2 or 3 minutes left, so I'm just gonna push through these last few minutes. Is that okay? All right, awesome, okay. One little piece on that, those accountability partners and the community of care, remember that people love to help. Think about the last time that you helped someone or you were willing to recognize their need for space. Chances are that you came out of that experience feeling this powerful sense of gratification, goodwill, and pride. That's because as human beings, we are hardwired for empathy. We are hardwired to support each other. I know sometimes it can be very vulnerable to ask for help. You may think to yourself, no one here wants to help me, or they're too busy. If I'm asking for help from them, I'm taking away from their family. But there are acts of kindness, both large and small, that can happen throughout your days and your interactions together that can make a really, really big impact on your overall mental health. So by now we've identified some negative habits, explored some more healthy ways to operate, and found an accountability partner or two. And the last thing we're going to do is set an intention. So if you turn your mindful drawing page over, there is a list of self-care mantras or statements. So going back to what I was saying before, there are 2 self-care tools that you always have with you that are super powerful and backed by brain research that they are effective tools for helping you feel better. So one is the power of your breath. So literally when you take a deep breath, a very long inhale and a very slow exhale, your brain sends a message down the vagus nerve, which is the single most important nerve in your body. It runs from the nape of your neck all the way down into your abdomen area. And your brain, simply by taking a deep breath, your brain sends a message to the rest of your body to calm down. And your heart rate slows, your breath rate slows, your muscle tension slows. There's gastrointestinal improvements as well. And that's backed by brain research, which is pretty cool. And then the power of your thoughts. So there are 14 self-care mantras listed. Just take a moment to read over them. And I want you to pick the one that resonates the most with you. So often our brains are consumed with negative thoughts, either about ourselves or our situation or our family or our community or our world. And if we put ourselves down, or if we spend our time putting ourselves down or second guessing every decision we make about our children, then that's going to foster all of this anxiety and depression and guilt and frustration. A lot of people have all of these negative comments bouncing around in their brain, and it just makes you feel bad. And you are the only one who can fix that, which is where a mantra comes in. A mantra is a word or a sentence that you say repeatedly over and over and over again to yourself, and it kind of blocks out those negative thoughts and roots you or grounds you in a more positive sense of well-being. And when paired with breath, it can be a 3 to 5 minute activity that has a powerful impact on your body's stress response system. So once you've picked your mantra, if you turn your page back over, your coloring page back over, each one of the pages has a space in the middle, and I would love for you to write your mantra in this space. And if you have a different mantra that's not on this page, please use it. A mantra has to resonate with you. It has to have a deeper meaning for you in order to have a greater impact. And these mantras with mindful coloring, this is something that I probably do once a month, and so by now I've built up a ton of them, and sometimes I'll put them on like a 5x7 note card so they're a little bit more handy. I've got some in my purse, I've got some in my car, I've got some taped to my bathroom mirror. I have them sprinkled throughout my life as a reminder that this is a practice that I need to do in order to best take care of myself so that I may best take care of my children. here's an example of one. And then I love to include this picture. Everyday Blessings is a really good book about mindfulness, which again is a super powerful tool, inexpensive, doesn't cost a thing, and it's always with you. The book Everyday Blessings, I highly recommend it. This was the morning when I was trying to have a mindful moment, and read this book, and all three children were climbing all over me, and I was like, how am I supposed to be mindful with all of you, crawling all over me? And just it was just an ironic moment. So that's one of my favorite pictures. And then last, here's my family today. So Nolan is our oldest. He's all the way on the left. I'm wearing the same outfit that I am in that picture. Nolan's our oldest. He is 7. In the middle there is Aiden. He's 2.5. And Rowan, our daughter, on the end is 5.5. And each one of them is a reminder to me every day that I need to best take care of myself so that I can be there for each and every one of them. If you have any questions about self-care or how to build up a practice or a support community, please, that is my email. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. That's all.